Hello and welcome. Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Greenwich Live Sessions. This is your host Omar Khan, and I'm back with another show and a group of guests because every Friday is Literature Review Day, and today we'll be reviewing the short story, The Yellow Wallpaper. And for that, I have with me my co host, Sundus Anwar, and she'll be introducing our panel and other guests for today.
Hello, Umar. How are you? I hope everything's good. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. So, today in our live session, we're going to be discussing the yellow wallpaper, as Umar said. And I have wonderful people with me. First of all, I would start with our faculty. We have Sir Umair Tariq with us. Sir Umair Tariq is a teacher in university. He is teaching us for the master's students. He has also been with Zabis. He teaches over their topics in Asian literature and creative writing to media science students. He has also been in Berlitz, and he teaches tier OA levels English language and literature. Welcome, sir. How are you?
Thank you for having me, Sundar. I'm well. I hope everybody's doing well during these troubled times. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir. The next we have Dua Rizwan. She's currently studying BS English Literature and Linguistics at Greenwich University. She writes poetry in prose as means to express herself and pens her thoughts through it. How are you, Dua? How's everything going?
Alhamdulillah, Sundar. How are you doing?
Alhamdulillah, all's good. Next, we have with us Abdullah Bhatt. Even in the previous show we had Abdullah, and it was a wonderful time with him. He's a researcher and he's studying BS English Literature and Linguistics at Greenwich University. Hello, Abdullah. Good to see you back.
Hello, hi. It's good to be back. I'm excited for this one.
Okay. Now we have Yasser Comer. He's also studying BS English Literature and Linguistics at Greenwich University, and he works in the Learning Tree School. Hello, Yasser.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, good to see you all. So we're going to start off. Oh, yes, Omar, you may continue.
Yes, absolutely. And yet again, we're in for a very exciting show for today because every Friday we discuss something. And for all the literature fans and even people who are not interested in reading, we create that interest in people while reviewing different poems and different stories. So today it's all about the yellow wallpaper. And Sundus, where are we starting from now?
We're going to start from Sir Umair. As you know, he's the faculty, and Sir Umair takes us all to a journey when he starts talking. So, Sir Umair, how do you want to start the yellow wallpaper?
Thank you, Sundar. Well, I think we should start off with the context of the yellow wallpaper, just to give viewers, anybody tuning in, and of course the the rest of the hosts to get an idea about. The story was set in 1892. It's a 19th century short story written by a feminist writer, Charlotte Perkins, who, whatever she's written in the story, she has experienced herself about the gradual mental breakdown of or descent into madness of a woman who is being treated with a specific cure called the rest cure that was popular at the time to treat hysterical women. All right, and hysteria is associated with women for a long time until we had breakthroughs in psychoanalysis and psychology to actually understand that there is a neurological and biological reason behind that, and it's not just to women, although it affected women mostly because of certain socio-political and economic situations at that time. So essentially, there are two important aspects of this short story. Of course, from a literary point of view, we have themes and symbols and allusions and characterization. There is no doubt about that. That it is definitely a very intriguing short story, technique-wise. But two lenses that we can look at this short story with are one is obviously the feminist lens, the lens of feminism, and the other is of the psychoanalysis or psychology, essentially mental health. These are the two core aspects of the short story that are explored in this in this short story. And I specifically, I think Dua will be taking the lead on the psychological and mental health aspect of this. I actually wanted to talk about the feminist aspect of this short story specifically.
Okay.
So this is, of course, yeah. So you want me to continue, or would anybody else like to chime in?
Yes, I would actually, point up to that. Okay, this was the start of how feminism was taking its toll, how actually women were starting to, reflect on what their identity was in the, world. So it's a huge thing. And even Miss Nadia Kaleem is here with us in the comments, and she's saying it's always learning when one is with Umar. Oh, sir, that's so sweet.
Thank you.
I would totally agree. I would totally agree to that. I enjoyed a session. I've never been in his class, but I have heard so much about him. And I was intrigued. I was so intrigued, Umar, that I literally asked him permission, sir, can I come in your class? And he said, yes, you may. I just attended his class because I wanted to see how he goes. And I'm like, says one of the most learned person in entire university, Umar. Oh, that's so sweet. It's so sweet, Umar. Okay, Dua.
Thank you.
Yes, Sundus.
You tell us, how do you interpret the yellow wallpaper? And start off.
First of all, thank you, Sundus. And I think that was a wonderful insight by Sir Umair, and I totally agree with his point of view. But right now, I would like to shift the attention of our audience towards the title of the short story, which is The Yellow Wallpaper. I think as readers, it is very important to know what the title actually is about, and specifically why the color yellow. Why did Charlotte Perkins go for the color yellow and not any other color in general? Uh, I think if you're someone like me who believes a lot in color psychology, I think you will realize that colors have a certain language of their own. They speak to you in ways that you don't even realize sometimes. And I believe that colors have, if all different colors have a different aura, and they all generate and radiate different kinds of energies. So yellow being the color of the sun, it has annotations which are bright and colorful and positive, and they instill creativity in you. But at the same time, though it's a lesser known fact, yellow can also be a very intriguing color. It can, hues like yellow and reds and oranges, they are known to be provoking. They are known to be mood stimulators. And it's a lesser known fact that when you put infants in yellow colored rooms, they tend to cry more because yellow is an overall depressing color after all. And on the other hand, the lighter hues, colors like blues and greens and grays, they are cooler and they look pleasing to the eye. And when you look at the sky and when you look at the sea, it immediately has that calming effect on your mind. And I think that is the point I'm trying to raise here, that colors all around you, the way you behave, the way you act, and the way you react to certain things, colors have a very deep impact on you.
That's true. I would totally agree to that. Abdullah, how would you take it? She gave us an excellent, insight on colors, and I agree to her point. So, Abdullah, continue.
Well, thank you, Sundus. Well, you already know I have this favorite thing where I had to describe the title because I feel like a lot of people, as I've said before, just read the title and they go like, you know what, I'm not reading this. What the hell is this? So your Sundus already tackled the point of yellow, the color yellow in the short story Yellow Wallpaper. I want to tackle the other word, wallpaper. Now, when you read that title, you're going to think of it as very simplistic. You're going to think of it as something that's not so special. The yellow wallpaper was going to be about. It's going to be about a yellow wallpaper. That's someone who doesn't read. That's what they're going to think. The wallpaper in this story, in this short story, I'm not going to spoil it, but it represents something much more than just a wallpaper. Like Sir Umair said, is that we're going to be psychoanalyzing the book itself, the short story itself. And the wallpaper, I used this example in the pre-up before we came on to this live session, is that I think all of us, people who read, people who don't read, at one point in our life have seen this picture of a man sitting in a room, is in a prison cell of sorts, and he's looking out this window. And that's the only window in his prison cell. And that window becomes life for him because he can't go out, he can't look out, there's no door in that room whatsoever. It's just one window, and that one window is his perspective on the world. So, however the mind works of that man, of that particular man in that prison cell, the window was supposed to enhance the feeling or change it somehow. And I think the yellow wallpaper works really well on that simple symbolism, how one inanimate object can turn into everything if we have nothing else around us. For example, if, like, for all of us right now who are quarantined, uh, we don't have much to look to, we don't have much to look up to, we don't have, much activity going on. So for some people it's video game, for some people it's movies, for some people it's books. I think the
Hmm.
yellow wallpaper is something that gives meaning to such a simple thing, a simple concept as just a
Hmm.
random wallpaper, but for that
Yes.
woman in that story, it's everything.
I would
And
totally
with
agree to that. I love the point that you integrated it with today's world as well. That how we're going, and definitely the whole scenario has turned everybody upside down. We're in isolation, things get a little depressing, and when you are in one environment, you kind of just get a little block in your mind. Yasser, how would you add up to this?
Uh, I would add up to the fact that the reason Charlotte Perkins wrote this story was basically a beacon of hope for other women, because this short story was written a year before, I think, the second wave of feminism, where women gained the right to vote. Now, when you consider the time in which this short story was written, we can see that women were dominated by the patriarchal society. And
Hmm.
in the society, and the story as well, we see that her husband, John, is shown as the main breadwinner.
Hmm.
However, the wife, she is considered as imaginative or overtly imaginative. Now, the word overtly imaginative or the word imaginative is considered to be weak and feminine by certain critics, and it is affiliated with women. Now, the thing is, the wallpaper itself, it represents the barrier between the wife and the husband. The,
Oh
the
wow.
husband the husband cannot see through the wallpaper at the wife. The wife cannot see through the wallpaper to the husband. There's a miscommunication there, and the miscommunication is there because the husband does not want to accept that his wife is going through postpartum depression instead of considering insanity.
Hmm.
Now,
That was.
the thing is, the wife, because she is apparently imaginative or overtly imaginative, uh, she wants to break out of that circle. And the husband, because he considers her to be weak, won't let her do so. It is a clear cut definition of how the patriarchy is suppressing women in today's society and the past and the future. I hope not the future, but definitely the past.
That's so sweet. Umar, did you how much do you agree to this point? I always love when you talk about feminism and we talk about women rights. So I want to know about your point of view.
Well, I was like listening to everyone, and even people from the audience are loving all different perspectives. I'll just raise a few points from everyone. So Abdullah mentioned the similar situation we all are facing. Like we all are in quarantine, and we use ourselves, to watch TV or some series or books. We're talking about 1892, where they didn't had that much options. There was no internet or a telephone or something like that. So the level of isolation of the lady in the book was completely different that we cannot even imagine 130
Mm.
years ago. So that was one point. Secondly, Dua mentioned that yellow is a depressing color. So I won't agree to that because colors or things are never depressing. It's just the feelings and emotions you attach to them makes them that way. For me, I think yellow is a color of power, is a color of the sun, and personally I like yellow, I like bright color. So it's not depressing for me, but yes, looking at the story and how the whole situation was, she was closed in a room, so yellow was quite disturbing for that woman particularly. So there are lots of perspectives, and keeping all in mind, especially keeping this in mind that we're talking about 1892 and all the psychological state and how that woman was treated with by her husband and a friend and how things were going. So it's something very interesting which we can relate and connect even 130 years later. So that's the beauty of it.
That's so true. That's so literature always connects to you. That's the power of literature. It speaks to everybody in a different level. It speaks to them when then nothing can speak to you. Your literature is always there. Feminism, a very strong topic, and a very deep topic, especially in Pakistan, because it's taken in the wrong role. People don't actually know what it is. Some people actually misguide themselves, and some women even misguide themselves in terms of feminism. Sir Omer, I want you to talk about it. How do you feel? What is feminism? How has it been? And how do we take it now?
I think Sarumer has some
Yes,
relaxed.
Sir
Yes.
Omer ka thoda sa. I would take Dua. Dua, why don't you? Because, a woman with a woman.
Yes, I think Yasser talked about the relationship between men and women, particularly with the story, how it goes. I think men in our society, they've always been taught how to, never express themselves, how to never really talk about what they're feeling, how to acknowledge what they're feeling, right?
Mm,
So
yes.
that leads to some sort of, lack of empathy on their part, I feel. Because a person who is not really taught how to feel, in our society, how we're told that लड़कों को रोना नहीं चाहिए, क्यों नहीं रोना चाहिए, why shouldn't they be able to feel? Because if they're not able to feel something themselves, I don't think they'll be able to understand women who feel so much. And it's always known that women tend to be more emotional than men, although that's a little bit of stereotypical thinking, but that's how it is. So I think as long as we don't teach our men, as long as we don't stop this conditioning that men also need to start feeling something and not be as robotic as they are, I think it's going to change a lot of things, because that's where the imbalance begins, where a
Absolutely.
man is unable to understand a woman who is trying to tell you something about herself. So I think for that empathy to be more empathetic, you need to start acknowledging how you're feeling, especially the negative emotions. Because a man
Mm,
is only taught how to lash out and how to be frustrating, and I think he
yes.
needs to be taught how to be understanding and gentle as well.
I
So
would
that's
totally agree to that. That everybody is human, or Umar would totally agree to that point as well. सब feel करते हैं. It's completely fine to feel. It's not something big or something that doesn't make you small. It's just a part of life, how we are as humans. So Umair, Aisha Najmi asked you a question that Umar, if you can, show it in the comments. That sir, we would like to know, how do you compare and see the women of that time and the women of today?
Right. So I think we've had this, we've touched on this in our class as well. I personally don't think that there is much of a difference between women at that time and women today. In fact, even in the modern Western world, despite the advances that women and the Western world has made in order to break the glass ceiling, more representation, even they're still behind on achieving gender equality. Whereas in Pakistan specifically, let's just talk about Pakistan specific. It's not we're not there yet, and that's because of this one specific thing about the story is the biological reductionism of the female. The female is essentially expected to be a domestic, baby-bearing, machine. The man, and the dichotomy is again, somebody over here was, I think Umar was talking about this wonderful, dichotomy in colors. Yellow is the color of the sun, but yellow is also the color of malaria or sickness or TB or whatever. Same thing as a man and woman. Man is usually considered to be more rational, whereas the female is more emotional. Of course, these dichotomies are not necessarily real, but they are projected in order to kind of, and you will notice how the man, John, the husband, is talking to the wife in infantilizing way, in a patronizing way. He's more in control, in command, whereas she is hysterical. The word hysterical itself is associated with women because they are more, or at least when they try to express themselves or their ideas, just did not fit the realm of domesticity. Their idea is their job is not to really, think beyond a certain kind of limitation that is proposed on them. And this biological reduction still exists today. Anybody who says that, oh, the job of the man is to do this and the job of the woman is to do that, it's completely ridiculous. Human beings are complex creatures with, neurological, emotional, complex nuances that cannot be put in binaries like these anymore. And we're getting a better understanding of gender roles now than before. But Charlotte Perkins was way ahead of her time, and this is way before A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf. And that's interesting, that name, Virginia Woolf. When she wrote A Room of One's Own, she wrote it as A Room of One's Own and Three Guineas, essentially. They're kind of short essays about that a woman must have a room of one's own, not like our protagonist in the short stories, where she is confined, not allowed to express, not allowed to paint or write. And essentially, if a person has a need, a desire, a creative spark to express, which all humans do, you may want to repress that, but as Freud said, the repressed will return. And the wallpaper, the manifestations on the wallpaper is that return of the repressed. And this biological reduction creates this kind of repression. And when Virginia Woolf wrote A Room of One's Own, she said that a room of one's own for the woman is for that place where she can actually think in quiet and express herself any which way she wants. And the Three Guineas essay that is right after that is essentially about financial independence. If we look at the relationship between her husband and our protagonist, it is a very one-sided, codependent relationship. Interestingly, the room where the woman is actually staying is a nursery for a child, which she did not want to be in. She wanted to be in the ground floor. The husband said, "Then no, go. The upstairs room is better." And he puts her in, a kind of, the nursery of a child, because that's kind of symbolic of how she is being treated like a child and infantilized. Before I give the floor to somebody else, I just wanted to add the second wave of feminism began in the 1950s with this book called The Feminine Mystique by Betty Friedan. Betty Friedan was asked by her college to do a survey of her batchmates who graduated, a few years ago, and all of them were housewives. And she did a survey, and she saw this trend in the survey where all housewives showed a kind of what the French would call an ennui, a boredom of existence, to the extent where they try to keep themselves busy until they're exhausted in the end. And when they're asked why exactly are you unfulfilled, they talk about meaning and socioeconomic equality. They talk about equality, dignity at home, etc., etc. So she coined this word called the feminine mystique, which is essentially a product sold to women. And that time, in the book, she gives examples of, and we've seen vintage advertisements that are extremely patronizing to women, infantilizing to women, and they promote this concept of the perfect woman is a mother, a daughter, a sister, or whatever. She is everything but an individual, right? She is everything but, she is not an individual. She's connected to some man for validation of her existence, right? And that feminine mystique, I mean, it was written in 1953. We're looking at a story from 1892. Clearly, this is exactly what the concept was. What was the rest cure? The rest cure was that the woman is spending too much time outside of her domestic habitat, which is her natural habitat, again, biological reductionism. And that essentially is counterproductive. And why it hits home is because our author, Charlotte Perkins, actually is the woman who went through this whole nervous breakdown because a doctor recommended this rescue to her, and she did have the nervous breakdown and wrote about it, right? So, from a feminist point of view, from the first and second wave point of view, from Virginia Woolf, Betty Friedan, we are looking at a consistent observation in selling a kind of, a box women and trying to make sure that they stay within that box. And unfortunately, it's still today, as Aisha was asking as well, yes, it still exists today. We may have increased the size of the box, but socioeconomic realities also decide how big or small that box is
I
as
would
well.
so agree. I would agree that we haven't actually stepped out of it. Abdullah and Yasir, I want you both to talk about, because you're the young men of this, generation, and you're going to have wives. I want to know how you take feminism, boys.
I think I'll let Yasser go first. Yasser, I think you're the first one who's gonna have a wife before me, so I think I'll let
Oh,
you
that's
have the
so
I,
cute.
first.
I definitely support feminism, all forms and shape.
Definitely, yeah. And Abdullah, now he has, just summed it up. He's like, I support.
I guess, yeah, he found the easy way out that he supports feminism. I guess that's the easy way to get out of it. I'm just gonna tiptoe the question. I'm also a fan of feminism. I feel like it's a necessity, especially nowadays. I do have a question for Sir Omer though. Um, does he? Okay, so the basic narrative that the Yellow Wallpaper had, or at least what I felt like it had, was there was a big underlying theme of men know better.
Hmm.
I would just like to know from Sir Omer, do you think that narrative still exists right now in the current generation?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, mansplaining absolutely still exists.
Mansplaining.
If anything, social media, especially Twitter, has actually accentuated this kind of disparity. But the good thing is that feminism is on the up and up, and technology, information has actually emancipated women to a point where they can actually feel some kind of safety in calling a man out for his mansplaining. There is no doubt that this concept of man knows better is a false, is a fallacious understanding of how the man is rational, the woman is hysterical. But that essentially is something that is changing. However, people still do it. Again, infantilizing a woman is definitely a reality, and we see it all the time. In some form of variation, we will still see it. And it could be something as simple as, I just a lot of times when I'm debating online with somebody, they would say, oh, again, it's not feminism hai, so भेजें आप अपनी बहन को to get some naan or something like that. I'm like, yeah, why would I have to send a woman if she wants to go to get some naan? She can go get some naan, right? The fact that she is giving permission someone to go get naan automatically is an authority. You're establishing an
Authoritative.
authority here. And you are thinking this way because you know that you have, or patriarchy has given the men the kind of the authority to do as they please, right? And it's not that men are innately like this. Boys will be boys. No, we're not like this. I am certainly not like this, and I know a lot of men who are not like this. It's just that society allows for behavior like this to go by. If we socialize men well, this is not going to happen. It's as simple as that.
I totally agree. I totally agree to Sir's point. Taking
Yeah.
this point forward from Sir Umair.
I would also like to add something where everyone is discussing feminism. So all the three boys gave their take. So I also want to add my 2 cents. First of all, the thing is that, as Sindhu said, that feminism is misunderstood by lots of women and by lots of men at the same time. Right? If we talk about feminism, so it's about equal rights to women. So I'm also a big supporter of feminism. But being a man, if for instance the word says that men are superior, if they say that, so the men should act superior and care for their women, make sure that they have that space, that kind of mental balance. They give them that, they fulfill that vacuum. Even in the story we saw that that woman had a vacuum. She felt alone, she felt lonely, and that's where all the things started piling up. Well, she was creating stories out of just looking at a wallpaper. So if men say that they are superior, they should create that environment. They should give that comfort level to their women, where they can grow and where they can glow. But I believe that if in a presence of a man, any woman feels uncomfortable or unsafe, so it's the men to be blamed. So if you want to be real men, you have to make even stranger women around you feel comfortable and safe, right?
I would
And
so agree to that point. And Umar, taking your point forward, isolation, feeling abandoned. Uh, Yesterday, Dua was discussing this beautiful discussion with me. We were talking about depression. We're talking about how it is related, how strong impact it is in this story as well. Postpartum depression, depression in its own, depression as in terms of not being accepted. When you don't feel accepted, you somehow, make your own little world. You have this identity over there and you want to live there. So, Dua, talk about it.
First of all, I think it's very important to acknowledge the fact that depression is very much real and it is here, especially when you talk about confinement. In today's world where we're stuck in a pandemic, I think it's everywhere around us without us even knowing. And
Yes.
whether you talk about postpartum depression or any kind of depression, I think the word we're really looking for is emotional abandonment at the hands of people who we love, our loved ones.
Mm.
When they emotionally abandon us, we are bound to go and look for something to cope with elsewhere. And sometimes these coping mechanisms are not very healthy. They become unhealthy and sometimes they're even violent. So the question, we really need to start asking the right questions. Why do we need to go and look for these coping mechanisms elsewhere? Because emotional abandonment is something that even when children are small and when they're really young and their parents are not emotionally available for them, and when these children grow up and they become parents themselves, and what really happens is that they have this mixed rush of emotions of how to react because they've just started and they've just ventured newly into parenthood, right? Because they never themselves had this bond with their own parents, they don't know how to react, and they are more prone to postpartum depression. So I think
So
it's high time right now. We all need to acknowledge and we all need to address this problem because depression is here and it's very much real.
it's so much real, and the way she explains it, it's so beautiful. The way actually, she looks at the wallpaper and then she's actually looking at herself in it. The depression that comes out, it's because it's there. Or when nobody's talking to you, when you're isolated. आजकल हम लोग जिस तरह isolation में रह रहे हैं, और there was a time when everybody was talking कि इतनी negativity हो गई है, क्या करें, कुछ समझ नहीं आ रहा. There is no such thing as hope coming out. So this the reason why we discussed this story was to help you guys relate, and to make you guys to get the point through it. Taking this point forward, I would take some comments. I was reading some great comments that were coming in, and I would love everybody's tip on it. Omar, can you please show them?
Yes, I'll add on few.
Anna Malik says, pangs of depression. So, Sanwar and Umar Khan, you guys seem genuinely relieving women of it. Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you. We appreciate that. Oh, that's my mom. Was it Anwar? Great going. Thank you, mom. That was okay. Asha Lakshmi says, Sundus, let's go and buy naan from tomorrow and make it common. Oh, I don't mind. I don't mind though. I really don't mind.
Yeah, great, yeah, absolutely.
I'll bring naan for all of you.
I'll tell you, Sundar.
Yes, sir. Why not? Why not? Do it.
Nadia says feminism means to embrace femininity, and that is absolutely true. You see this concept of the rational man and the hysterical woman. Essentially, we're humans. We have the capability to be rational and irrational. Creating this dichotomy is fallacious, right? So when we talk about femininity, we say, oh, a man who cries, or a man who, does home chores, or or something like whatever, It's, or he's not the main bread earner, and his wife or his, partner is the main bread earner. These things are essentially associated with, femininity, and masculinity is, who wears the pants in this house and all of these things. So when Nadia says feminism means to embrace femininity, absolutely, it is to embrace it as, not as a weakness. For example, when I was a student in Dublin, I used to clean my own toilets. I used to vacuum my own room. I used to make my own bed. We didn't have a maid there, right? I mean, a maid over there was 17 euros an hour. We could not afford that on us, as students. And I don't think any person at that time, said to me or the other Pakistani, people that, oh, ye kya aur tumhare kaam kar rahe ho. Lekin as soon as we got back over here, and we settled into our routine, we got up and the maids are coming in and cleaning up and whatnot. All of a sudden, that same kind of, language kind of pours in, that, oh, ye kya, aurton ke kaam mein lage hue, it's so feminine. It's not, it is human. It is, to clean up after yourself is the most basic, quality that a human being should have. And this is associated beyond such basic things to, as Omar said, being supportive. If you do consider yourself superior, then you have to show it through your empathy, through your, through your equality, through your respect and dignity to everybody, whether they're male or female, and there should be no differentiation. So absolutely, all of these things, whatever is femininity, whatever is masculinity, is essentially, you have to kind of develop both of them within you. It's time to be secure men. It's the 21st century now. So,
I'll also
I would totally agree. I would totally, Sir Umair, I really liked your point.
Yeah, Sundus, I'll also like to add to this because since it's one of my favorite topics, as you mentioned, that when you talk about feminism, it's not about men are more superior or women. They both complement each other. They both complete each other, and without each other, I think nor men can stay without women, nor women can stay without men. At the same time, I'll just tell about all the three boys. We can connect to this. Growing up, every time we lose something or we cannot fight something, हम आवाज मारते हैं, अम्मी ये चीज नहीं मिल रही कहाँ है? That is the level of dependency that we have on women, right? And when we get married, later on the thing converts from mother to your wife. You start calling your wife out, I can't find this, I can't find that. So that's the level of dependence a man has on his woman, right? At the same time, women, where men say that they go out, they do things. At the same time, there are certain things that women do, men even can't imagine doing. During this pandemic time, all the married men are realizing how difficult it is to manage a house, is to change diapers, is to cook food and do all the things. It's the women who manage everything. So we have to respect that, regard that, and help them out with everything they do. And women should equally respect the man, going out and dealing with the things that they do.
Bilkul. Umar, taking your point forward that women should actually respect men, I would definitely, Dua would agree with me. It's like a give and take. You respect, you get respect. I always believe that आप respect दोगे, आपको आगे से respect मिलेगी. And I've seen some men who are, like.
Right. Okay, I think Sundus has some internet issue, but at the time she gets fixed. So I just literally loved this session because there was so much more things that we added on to it. We started off discussing the yellow wallpaper and we connected it to our daily lives and how things are going right now. So I would like to ask everyone about their experience regarding this live session, because although we are in this pandemic situation, lockdown, social distancing, but here we are together discussing literature and meeting each other. So starting from you, Sir Umair, how was your experience here discussing literature and being on Greenwich live sessions?
Oh, it's wonderful, and I think it's quite seamless. I think we are adapting to this move towards online sessions and classes pretty well. I think we need more of these. There's no doubt about that, and put it up online and for the world to see. Because literature is, and I say this in my class all the time, it is the study of the human condition. And there are this is an 1892 short story when 2020, in the middle of a pandemic, talking about it in Pakistan. And it's because of it rings, it has a universal ring to it. And being able to do that despite a pandemic, which, if it was 1892, we wouldn't have been able to. And, we're taking the past, moving towards the future, hand in hand, and we're doing it pretty seamlessly. And I really appreciate that. I think it's a fantastic platform. And, I think, you're doing a great job. and I'm loving the comment section and of course my fellow speakers here. I mean, it's pretty fantastic. It's pretty fantastic. Thank you.
And I'm just looking at the the fan base that you have. That everybody they want your sessions even when you're not there. So you need to answer. You need to answer to this. This comment from Anna.
Anna is saying, Tariq, can we take tutorials with you? Even after graduating, your students are ringing with your theories. Yeah, absolutely. More than happy. I love to talk. Even when we were, fellow students in literature class, talking our way to scandals and, annoying and irritating people. It was definitely a great experience. And I am more than happy to continue this online. Absolutely.
Definitely, and we will keep you busy with these live sessions, because we have a live literature review every week. So we'll be engaging you a lot, inshallah. Dua, how was your experience at the live session today?
Actually, this is my first time coming live, but I think what we're doing at Greenwich is wonderful. And the reason is that we're able to connect and we're able to interact. It feels as if we're actually sitting in front of each other and just talking to each other. So the void has been filled. It doesn't feel like we're miles apart. And despite the pandemic, we're letting the gaps fill. And even other universities are following suit now. They're following our examples, and they've also started doing the live sessions. So I think Greenwich is the first one, and we're the trendsetters here.
In fact, we're the trendsetters from the very beginning. We were the first private university in Karachi, back in the 1980s. So we have been trendsetters for a long while, and we're still continuing to do so. Yasser, how was your experience at live sessions today?
Oh, I loved it. First time here, and it's really amazing. This is something that we should continue after the pandemic as well, because clearly we're reaching a very wide base of people.
Definitely. And Abdullah, you're also a regular part of our literature review. What would you like to say of the whole discussion that we had today and all of these live sessions that we're doing?
I actually wanted to thank you personally, because recently I was talking to my friend, and we were talking about the live session and how it happens. And I realized that giving literature a chance to come to a larger audience is something very rare. So personally, I would like to thank Greenwich. I would like to thank you for letting us students of literature, letting our teachers who have taught us so much, to have our opinions be said out loud. Because it's very rare that people actually say such philosophical thoughts out loud. So honestly, I would really like to thank you for this.
Absolutely. I would like to thank all of you for sharing such beautiful things and such beautiful perspectives, because what this does is it opens a lot of minds. Things that we share today, there many times we don't look at things this way, but thanks to your explanations and different perspectives, we start looking at life differently. Sundar, you're waving at me. Hello.
Yes, I'm waving at you because I just want to say thank you so much, Sir Umair, because this was something that I just took him by surprise. I messaged him. I was like, I want to talk to you, sir. Can I please have some time? And he's like, yeah, sure. He was so kind. He was so amazing to just, say yes to everything. The bachelor students are excellent. As was Nadia says that, zabardast bache hain, and I would totally agree to that. इन लोग से बात करने में, इन लोग से discussions करने में, it's so much fun. It's like a complete, different aura that you get into. I would like to thank each one of you. Yes, Greenwich is the biggest foundation that brought us all together. So thank you, university as well. I would just end at that point that in this novel, she says that I cry at nothing and cry most of the time. So please do read it and let me know why did I talk about this and why am I talking about this. Over to you, Umar. Now you wrap it up.
Yes, and once again, thank you all for joining in. We definitely have another session in the coming week, because we start this as a regular thing every Friday. Is dedicated to literature. So looking forward to many interesting stories, poems, and lots more of literature. So thank you once again, and stay safe and keep smiling, everyone.
Thank you.
You're most welcome. So guys, that was all for today's session. I personally loved it, and with all the different perspectives. And special thanks to Sir Umair, who took out time and shared his thoughts with us. It was absolutely thought-provoking for all of us. And as I said, with different perspectives, you start looking at things in a different way. And your exposure and your all observation in total, everything changes when you start looking at things differently. So I hope you enjoyed the session from today. You can always give us your feedback in the comments on what kind of topics you want to see at live sessions in the future, what kind of guests you want to see in live sessions in the future. And at the same time, you can see our website. We have started the admissions of the next semester, that is the fall semester. So you can visit the website and look at all the wonderful courses that Greenwich is offering. We're also in the middle of our summer program where you're getting a certificate for a short 6-week course where you can learn a skill during this pandemic and be a better version of yourself. So this was all for today. We'll be back tomorrow, inshallah, with another session. Until next time, keep smiling, stay safe, stay positive, and Pakistan Zindabad.